Her fingers tightened around the crumpled letter, ink smudged from the rain. Keen Yiran's shadow loomed behind her, his voice low, almost dangerous. If you open that door, Milam, nothing will ever be the same again. Welcome back to the Velvet Story, where love hides in the dark and danger wears a familiar face. Tonight, we enter chapters 55 through 58 of Beneath the Mask, where the boundaries between trust and betrayal blur with every heartbeat. In these chapters, a single phone call changes the course of their future. A confrontation in a candlelit room reveals truths neither of them were ready to face. And just when closeness seems possible, the world outside pulls them apart, harder, faster, and with sharper edges than ever before. Every word carries weight, every silence is loaded, and in the quiet between storms, the biggest decisions are made. Chapter 55, A Heart Without Armor. Zhu Milam awoke to a rare stillness. For once, there were no articles waiting in her inbox. No headlines clawing at her past. No new fire lit beneath her name. Just silence. A still morning in Keen Yiran's guest room, sunlight sifting through cream-colored curtains. She blinked slowly, listening to the soft hum of city life in the distance. It felt like a brief truce with the world. She walked into the living room, where Yiran stood by the open balcony, shirt sleeves rolled up, a mug of black coffee in his hand. He turned at the sound of her footsteps, and for a long second, said nothing. His gaze was different today, not cautious, not calculating, quietly soft. Milam wrapped the robe tighter around her frame. Morning. He gestured to the other cup waiting on the table. I made yours, Jasmine. She walked to it and took the cup in both hands, holding it like a shield. You remember it. I remember everything about you, he said, then paused, a frown flickering across his expression. I didn't mean that to sound. I know what you meant, she said, her voice gentler than she expected. And thank you. They sipped their drinks in silence. The kind of silence that didn't feel awkward or empty, but strangely comforting. Do you ever miss who you were before all this? Milam asked suddenly. Yiran glanced at her, startled. I mean, before being CEO. Before all the business wars and headlines. He looked away, eyes on the skyline. I don't know if I ever had a version of myself before that. I think I was born into the game. She watched him quietly. But, he added, voice low, sometimes I envy you. She gave a dry chuckle. Me? The walking scandal? No, you, who still feels everything. Her smile faded. That's not a strength, Yiran. That's what's breaking me. No, he said. It's what's keeping you alive. Their eyes locked again. She searched for the steel in his eyes, the cold precision everyone in the industry feared. But it wasn't there. What she saw was raw, and warm, and real. By late morning, Milam stepped into the hospital. Her mother's condition had stabilized, though still unconscious. Her brother remained in his wheelchair, slowly regaining some motor function. Their private nurse gave her a report, and Milam, professional and composed, took notes, asked questions, nodded steadily. But the moment she entered her father's room and saw him, frail and unresponsive, her composure began to crack. Baba, she whispered, sitting beside him. I'm fighting. I'm not hiding anymore. Her fingers wrapped around his limp hand. I miss you, she said softly. Even when you scolded me. Even when you made decisions I didn't understand. You always stood like a giant to me. She brushed a strand of grey hair from his forehead. And now, it's my turn to be strong. I hope I'm doing it right. A tear escaped her before she could stop it. Back at the Keen estate, Yiran was speaking with his legal strategist when his personal phone buzzed. He rarely used that line. Only 2 people had the number, his sister, and now Milam. He opened the message. Just needed to say thank you for standing next to me when I had nothing left. I don't know what this is between us, but I'm grateful. He stared at it for a long moment. Then typed, you had more than you think. I just helped you see it. He paused, then deleted it. Too much. He tried again. Always. Why then hit send? At dusk, Evelyn met with an executive from one of Keen Group's rival subsidiaries in a quiet lounge tucked inside a luxury hotel. "You understand what's at stake," she said, handing over a small packet. The man glanced through it: images, texts, bank slips. All fabricated, all clean enough to raise suspicion. "You're sure this will land?" She smiled coldly. "It doesn't need to land. It just needs to make people ask questions." Won't Keen Yiran trace this back? Not until it's too late. That evening, Meelam sat in her room, sketching quietly, a habit she'd nearly forgotten. Simple outlines. A lily in bloom. She didn't know what she was drawing it for. Only that she felt something stir. She remembered how Yiran's eyes softened when he looked at her. How he didn't flinch at her anger, or silence her fears. He simply stayed. And that was the hardest kind of affection to resist. A slow, steady presence. Not sweeping gestures or passionate declarations. But this constant thread. She set the sketch aside, her heart fluttering softly in her chest. "I think I'm beginning to fall," she whispered. Not to anyone else, just to herself. And that was enough. End of chapter 55. Chapter 56, Whispers in the Shadows. It started with a rumor. One line in a financial gossip forum. Then two. Then screenshots. And by morning, it had spread like wildfire. Keen Group involved in offshore manipulation, shares under internal investigation? It wasn't true, not even close. But the timing was perfect. Yiran walked into the boardroom like a man forged in storms, expression unreadable, as his assistant updated him. Online forums, social buzz, a few fake leaks. But someone pushed this intentionally. "We're tracking Ips." It started from a shell PR account that once boosted Lin Corp Press. The connection hit immediately. "Evelyn," he said under his breath. "And Lin Jianong," his assistant added grimly. "They're trying to damage your reputation now that you're supporting Miss Zhu publicly." "Prep legal," Yiran said tightly. "And I want a press rebuttal before noon." "Yes, President Keen." Meanwhile, Meelam sat in a quiet cafe near the hospital, phone in hand, eyes wide as she scrolled through the trending headlines. Though it wasn't about her this time, the panic still curled like smoke in her chest. Keen Yiran, her protector, her something more, and now he was under fire because of her. She paid for her coffee and walked out, ignoring the way her heartbeat grew heavier with every step. She entered Keen Group headquarters unannounced. The receptionist recognized her instantly but didn't stop her. It was clear, Meelam didn't come with hesitation. She came with purpose. Yiran's assistant met her halfway. "Miss Zhu, he's in a meeting." "Then tell him I'm here. He can step out." Something in her voice made the assistant nod and turn on her heel without question. A few minutes later, Yiran came out of the boardroom, blazer half unbuttoned, sleeves rolled up again. He looked exhausted, but the moment he saw her, his gaze steadied. "You shouldn't be here right now," he said quietly. "Why?" She shot back. "Because people are accusing you of things just because you stood beside me?" His lips thinned. "It's not your fault, but they're making it mine. They're trying to make it yours. That's different." She paused, her breath catching. "Then let me stand with you." A flicker of something passed through his expression. Surprise. Maybe something warmer beneath it. "You've done enough." "No," she said, voice firm. I've hidden behind you. Let me." His hand reached out, gently grasping her wrist. "Meelam." Their eyes met. His grip wasn't harsh, it was grounding. "You don't have to fix everything. You've already survived more than most could handle. And I'm still standing," she said quietly. "Let me do that for you now." He stared at her, as if searching for something in her face. Then slowly, he let go. "All right," she exhaled. "Good. Also," he added, his voice turning softer, "you look terrifying when you're furious." Her lips curved despite herself. "Good." That afternoon, Meelam held her own press interview, not as a Zhu heiress, not as a scandal's victim, but as a woman who refused to remain silent. "I want to speak not just for myself, but for those who've been silenced by fabricated shame. There's a pattern here. Every time I rise, someone tries to bury me again. And now they're targeting the man who gave me a second chance. She held up an article with the Keene Group accusation. This is fear talking, not truth. And if people are afraid of a woman standing on her own feet again, then let them tremble. The room was silent for a beat before someone clapped. Then more. By evening, the tide had shifted. Yiran watched the video of her interview in his office, expression unreadable. His assistant had left him alone with it, and he watched it 3 times before shutting the laptop. He leaned back, rubbing his temples. No woman had ever stood for him like that. Not once. Everyone who came into his life had wanted something: access, power, prestige. But Meelam, she gave when she had so little left. Not just love, loyalty. And that terrified him more than any business threat ever had. Because he could negotiate with rivals. But he had no defense against someone so quietly powerful. Later that night, he found her again, at the small garden outside the hospital. She was standing in silence, gazing at the pond where moonlight touched the water. "You were incredible today," he said quietly. She turned slowly. "I didn't do it for praise. I know." A silence stretched. "You are not like them," he said finally. She frowned slightly. "Them? Everyone else who stood next to me. You didn't do it for leverage." "No," she said softly. "I did it because I care." That word, care, it landed between them like a whisper. She looked away. "And I'm scared of that." "So am I," he said. She looked back at him, startled. He took a step closer. "I've lived so long behind armor that I forgot how it felt to let someone in. But you're already inside, Meelam." Her breath hitched. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe the night I saw you crying beside your father. Or the way you never asked me for help, even when you were drowning." Silence again. Soft. Fragile. Then her hand reached for his. Not to hold. Not to cling. Just to feel that he was real. "I don't know what this is yet," she whispered. "But I want to find out." He nodded, gently linking his fingers with hers. "So do I." Across the city, Evelyn sat in her high-rise apartment, watching the growing support online. Her expression was calm, cold. "Enjoy your moment, Zu Meelam," she murmured, pouring a glass of wine. "Because when I take everything from you next, there will be no one left to save you." End of chapter 56. Chapter 57, Beneath the Surface. It had been 3 days since Zu Meelan's press statement. 3 days since the public tides turned. Since she watched the weight on Keen Yiran's shoulders ease ever so slightly. He still worked late into the nights, still guarded every word, but now, his glances lingered a little longer. His voice softened when he spoke to her. Meelam stood on the rooftop of the hospital, the city skyline glittering beneath a heavy sky. The scent of rain hovered, thick and waiting. Behind her, footsteps. "I figured I'd find you up here," Yiran's voice came from the shadows. Calm, warm. She smiled without turning. "You always find me when I need quiet." "Because I know where you hide," he replied, stepping beside her. They stood shoulder to shoulder, the wind tugging gently at their hair. "You've been quieter today," he said. "I was thinking." Dangerous habit. She huffed a laugh. "About the future." His expression shifted, she could sense it without looking. "And what did it look like?" "I used to see it like a boardroom. Strategy. Suitors chosen over wine. A family business I was never meant to control but expected to protect." She finally turned to him. "Now, I don't know what it looks like. But it's not grey anymore." Yiran's gaze didn't waver. "Neither is mine." Her breath caught at the words. She didn't know what surprised her more, his honesty, or the look in his eyes that held no defense this time. Only her. He reached into his coat pocket and held something out. A lily hairpin. The same one she'd worn the night of her wedding. "I found it," he said softly. "Tangled in my coat after that night. I didn't know it was yours, not until recently." She took it with trembling fingers. "You kept it." "I should have returned it earlier." I didn't understand what it meant, not then. It meant I wasn't alone that night. Their eyes met, and everything between them tightened, like strings drawn together by some invisible force. Her past, his silence, that single night they both tried to forget. And yet, it lingered. A truth neither could erase. He stepped closer, his fingers brushing hers. Meelam, he said quietly, if I say I want to try, if I say I'm not afraid anymore. I'd believe you, she whispered, but I don't want promises. I want you to be there when it's hard. When I break again, I will, he said, his voice hoarse. I already am. Elsewhere, in a luxury tea lounge nestled in the heart of the financial district, Evelyn Du was reading a dossier with calm precision. Across from her sat Lin Jianong. You are sure this will destabilize her? He asked. Evelyn nodded once. Qin Yiran thinks he's untouchable now. She thinks she has her story under control. But this, she tapped a thin folder, is her family's last thread of stability. What is it? A shell account opened in Zhu Konghai's name, she said coolly. And a falsified paper trail that suggests Zhu Meelam transferred critical Zhu Group assets to Qin Enterprises. It will look like embezzlement. But it's not real. Truth really matters, Evelyn replied. Only perception. Lin hesitated. What if she survives this too? Evelyn's gaze sharpened. Then we hit her where even love can't save her. 2 days later, chaos returned. The article appeared suddenly, breaking news on finance forums, then viral across gossip circles. Zhu Meelam involved in asset laundering? Zhu family under internal scrutiny again? New investigation opens into Zhu Konghai's private transactions. Within an hour, Zhu Meelan's phone rang non-stop. She ignored it. Her breath was shallow. The walls of her apartment felt like they were closing in. When she answered the hospital's call, her heart dropped. Her mother's heart rate had spiked. Stress, worsening conditions, doctors saying words like episode and trigger. She rushed to the hospital, hair unbrushed, heart in free fall. The media were already waiting outside. She pushed past them, shielding her face. Her mind was spiraling, not again. Not now, not when I just started to breathe again. In her mother's room, machines beeped softly. Her hand trembled as she held her mother's pale fingers. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm trying, Mama, I'm really trying. Behind her, the door opened. Yiran entered silently, his eyes already fixed on her. He crossed the room and gently pulled her into his arms. She didn't resist. I didn't do anything wrong, she whispered against his chest. I know, I didn't touch a single cent from them. I believe you, but they won't, she choked. Not the public, not the board. This time, they'll crucify me. He pulled back, cupping her face in both hands. Then let them try. Her tears spilled, hot and raw. I can't lose them. Not my family. Not again. You won't, he said, his voice a wow. Because I'm not leaving this time. And she broke, collapsed into his arms. Not as the heiress everyone loved to ruin, not as the woman who walked out of fire once already. But simply as herself. And he didn't look away. He held her through it all. End of chapter 57. Chapter 58. A name that protects. The boardroom buzzed with tension. 11 pairs of eyes flicked to Yiran as he stood at the head of the table, hands braced against the polished mahogany. The headline blazed on the screen behind him. Zhu Meelan's ties to internal asset laundering. Was Qin Group complicit? A deliberate smear. The board wasn't panicking yet. But unease rippled beneath the surface, coiled like a snake. Yiran's voice cut through the air. You've all read the article. Now let me tell you why it's trash. Someone, Director Hu, cleared his throat. President Qin, with due respect, public perception is already shifting. If we don't distance the company from a lie, Yiran's tone was sharp but measured. Or from the woman who just weeks ago turned public opinion in our favor when she defended me in a press conference? Silence. She is not a liability. She is a target. And anyone here who doesn't recognize the orchestration behind this narrative has no business sitting at this table. He clicked the remote in his hand. A new screen appeared, proof of the falsified accounts. Digital fingerprints, matching metadata to known shell agencies tied to Lin Jianong. Gasps. A few sat straighter. One looked ill. Yiran's voice dropped, lethal in its calm. Anyone who breathes the idea of distancing will be met with legal retaliation and immediate expulsion from this company. And what if the market demands action? Who challenged, tone less confident. Then I remind the market, Yiran said, eyes burning, that Keen Yiran doesn't bend to liars. And anyone who touches Zhu Milam touches the name that protects her now, mine. When Milam heard what he'd said in that meeting, she sat in stunned silence. She wasn't watching from a tablet or TV, she was watching a clip forwarded to her by an intern from a financial PR group. The footage had been leaked. Possibly on purpose. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from something warmer. Something terrifying. She'd been protected before, yes. But never like this. Never by someone who chose her not because it was expected, but because he wanted to. Yiran hadn't asked her, hadn't warned her. He simply stood there, in front of the knives, and said, "Come closer if you dare." She didn't know whether to cry or to go to him. So she did both. She arrived at Keen Tower unannounced. Again, the same receptionist looked surprised, but not unwelcome. "President Keen is in his office. He asked to be disturbed for only one person today," she said with a gentle smile. Milam swallowed hard and nodded. When the elevator doors opened to the executive floor, Yiran was already standing near the window, back to the glass, watching the storm roll in. He turned the moment she stepped out. "You saw it," he said simply. "I did." He didn't speak, just looked at her like the silence between them was enough. Milam crossed the space slowly. Her heels clicked softly, steady, confident. When she reached him, she stared into his eyes. "You shouldn't have done that." "I didn't do it for you," he said. Her breath caught. He stepped forward. "I did it for me. Because I've spent years watching people speak half-truths and call it diplomacy. Watching people play polite while they kill each other's names. Another step. And I was one of them." He stopped just in front of her. His voice lowered. "But you never played those games. Even when they gutted you, you didn't lie to win. You told the truth. You stood alone." She blinked back tears, her throat tight. "And now," he said, eyes darkening, "you don't have to stand alone anymore." Her hand found his on instinct. Not for protection, but to ground herself. Because his words felt like more than defense. They felt like a beginning. "I don't know if I'm ready," she whispered. "To fall, to love again, to believe that this. I'm not asking for all of you," he said softly. "Just, let me be near you. Until you are." Something inside her cracked open. She didn't kiss him. She just leaned forward until her forehead touched his chest, and he wrapped his arms around her like she was the most precious thing he'd ever held. But peace really lasted. Not in their world. A call came that evening. From the hospital. Melan's brother, Zhu Hao, had gone missing. Paralyzed from the waist down, he could not leave unaided. His nurse reported only a brief moment of stepping away, 10 minutes. And when she returned, his wheelchair was gone. Security footage? Wiped clean. It was a message. Yiran didn't hesitate. "We'll find him," he said, already issuing commands through his phone, voice turning razor sharp. Milam nodded, face pale but jaw set. "I won't let them break me this time," she said. "You won't have to," Yiran promised. "Not as long as I'm here." End of chapter 58. And there we leave them, Yiran walking into the night with a storm in his eyes, Milam clutching the one secret that could shatter them both. The rain hasn't stopped, but now, it's no longer just falling from the sky. In chapters 59 through 62, a public meeting turns into a silent battle of wills. A hidden ally steps out of the shadows. And one unthinkable choice will decide whether this love becomes their salvation or their undoing. Stay tuned, because the mask is slipping, and when it falls, the truth may be too much to survive. Make sure you're subscribed to the Velvet Story so you don't miss the next turn in this dangerous dance.